really two things. I think one, when you go through something like the loss of a child, you can never really prepare for it. There's not, I don't care what they say, there's not a class you can take. There's not any lessons you can try to, there's no workout that's going to get you through that. Mm-hmm. But I think once you get there, to me, there's nothing worse that can happen. And so, anytime after that, whether it was the, for me, the most recent was the whole pandemic, the shutting the gym down, and then all the openings and the mat and all that stuff. It was hard. Hadn't been unemployed for a while. I was told my job was non-essential, even though the bills that kept coming in very much were. But at the same time, it's like, that's nothing compared to losing my daughter. I mean, I almost feel like, okay, well, I got that. What else you got? Perspective, we're flying high. Together we can touch the sky.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Rush Perspective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. Today's guest is a living example of resilience and grit. From a shy, skinny kid to an accomplished martial artist and elite personal trainer, Brian Syphard's story is a powerful story of personal growth and self-mastery. With a degree in kinesiology from the University of Texas in Austin and nearly 30 years of experience in fitness, Brian has dedicated his life to helping others reach their full potential. He's not only an All-American swimmer, but he also holds a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. His accolades speak volumes, but what truly sets him apart is his philosophical insight and deep understanding of resilience, shaped by overcoming personal challenges like the heartbreaking loss of his first daughter. In this episode, we'll explore Brian's unwavering commitment to mastering the tough challenges that perfectly align with our podcast focus on spiritual, emotional, and intellectual mastery. This conversation is going to be packed with personal insight, practical wisdom, and strategies that you can use to overcome your own obstacles and live a more authentic life. Brian, brother, it's awesome to have you here.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
On the Rush Perspective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. For a long time, you and I share the same space at Cowboys Fit.
Yeah.
One of the best gyms in Frisco, Texas, if I might add.
Appreciate it. It is.
And I have a huge admiration and respect for strength training, personal training. Having done it myself, I always am interested in seeing what makes them always say, what's your claim to fame? What's that person's claim to fame? What's this person's claim to fame? And I've always wanted to share an opportunity to get to know you better and explore where you're at. So when you shared a piece of your story with me, I was compelled. I was like, okay, man, like I got to have you on this podcast, and we got to get to know Brian. And what I also see in the community is people have great admiration and respect for you as just a human being. I don't see you as a conflict-oriented person. I see you as a peacemaker, and that's even greater. So I wanted to let you know that.
I appreciate it. I try to be.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, you're doing it, man. You're doing it, and I value that. And I think a lot of people in your inner circle and the people on the outside kind of see that too. They kind of get that energy from you. So I appreciate you, man.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Okay, and in terms of in personal growth and transformation, looking back at your journey from a shy kid to a top elite personal trainer, what are a few key moments that helped you grow and change from starting from that space?
I think a lot of it's going to be at some point you really don't have a choice. You either you're going to stay put, or you can grow. That's really the main thing. I think as you're a kid, you start to kind of develop a little bit differently. I was always very, very shy, kind of slight. And so it got to a point where it seemed like junior high, when all those cliques kind of started, it almost seemed like everybody had a meeting that I didn't know about, and they decided, well, he's over here, we're going to be over here. So spent a lot of time with myself, and just honestly just kind of had to toughen up a little bit. Kind of stumbled onto exercise. I found a little exercise equipment in my dad's closet. He traveled a lot, so he was never using it. And I started to use it, and I saw the difference that it made in how I felt, how I acted, how I reacted. I was still swimming at the time, and all of a sudden my times dramatically dropped. But also just the physical transformation part of it. The thing that I liked about exercise was you have something to say. A lot of times in life you can't decide how things are going to go, but if you don't like how you look, you don't like how you feel, you can go to the gym, you can go exercise, and you can kind of change that. And I started winning a little bit more. I started beating swimmers that I probably really had no business beating. And it's always contrary to what people thought of me. They're like, well, you can't do this. You're too slow. You're too this. You're not good looking. You're awkward. You're not part of the group. And I kept proving everybody wrong bit by bit by bit. And through that, your confidence started to kind of slowly come back up, and you realize, it's not, you don't decide, I decide. And so just you get those wins along the way, and it just definitely helps toughen you up a little bit and make you just a little bit more, more resilient, to be honest.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like what you said, is that you have a say. You have a say in your own, on your own physical well-being. From the physical well-being, what do you see about being physically, accomplishing physical feats that help you internally?
Yeah, I think it just made it's an overall self well-being. I think you have that confidence. If you're if you're running and you don't feel you can go that one extra step, and all of a sudden you do go that one extra step, you feel that much better. You maybe, as we get older, aches and pains start to kind of creep up, and then you realize I'm not aching as much. The biggest thing with a lot of people I work with, a lot of it's not appearance, it's not vanity, it's more, I need to get off these meds, or I'm tired of walking across the street and I can barely keep up with my kid. I'm tired of aching. So I think a lot of it's just the more stronger you are, the more structurally intact you are. It just goes a long way. It just goes for me, every hour in the gym, I'm thinking I'm adding on to more years of my life, but not just regular, just more quality of life. I don't want to just live, I want to thrive. I don't want to be a spectator. I want to be an athlete. I want to be the guy on the field, not the guy on the bench because I have to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Swimming, All-American swimmer, right?
Yes.
And third-degree black belt, right? Well, how are those kind of related to each other? If you said, when I think of these two sports, or these feats, All-American swimmer and third-degree black belt, what did it take for you to get to that? And what is it that you see that is the common thread between in those two sports?
I think for me, there's two. There's obviously the time and commitment. I mean, swimming, it's an early morning sport. We swam 2 hours before school even started, and then after school we swam another 2 hours after school. You had your meet on Wednesday or Friday nights, and then Saturday morning you swam for another 3 hours. So as long as you were present and doing the work, you couldn't help but to not get better, just because the more time you add anything, it becomes automatic, becomes reflex, but you just the time and dedication for it. Martial arts is very much the same thing. Everybody starts off as a white belt, and you kind of come full circle. I had one instructor tell me that as you go white belt, the more you do it, the dirtier that belt gets, and it turns black. And then as you keep doing it, it gets more faded, and almost you go right back to white belt again. So you make that full circle. The other thing I had really in common was two very good coaches. With swimming, there was a gentleman named Mark Onstadt. When I swam in Houston, he really he changed my life. He saw something in me that I didn't see. I saw somebody who was still kind of unsure of himself. He said, "No, you're a swimmer. Matter of fact, you're a good backstroker. Matter of fact, you do belong on varsity. And I'm going to keep pushing you and pushing you." And yeah, he made me an All-American. He made me. I got fourth in state. I mean, he took me to a summer leaguer. I'm doing this just for fun. To an elite, swimmer to be reckoned with in the high school ranks. Martial arts, the same thing. I took it at Tiger Rock in Frisco. Master Robert Dallas, very much the same thing. He was the first one to get in contact with me. I was looking around for some type of discipline. I'm tall. I got long legs, so he said Taekwondo is definitely for you. It's a lot of kicking. But yeah, it was the same. It was the same thing I needed as an ex-athlete, because I didn't start that until I was like 38. Yeah. I needed that structure, needed to be pushed, and it felt good to be coached again. It felt good to mess up, and it felt good to improve through his instruction. And again, it's just the constant practice, the sparring. The more you do it, the better you got. And you can just kind of see that steady level of improvement. What hurt today is going to pay off much, much later. That's
amazing, man. Like, there's always this, where they say there's a third degree of separation or something. Well, Master Dallas, was one of my wife's coaches too. Yes.
Oh, you kidding, right?
No, not, man. Like, I'm serious. I hear Master Dallas. I'm like, who is this Master Dallas? Maybe I've met him. I think I met him at one of the tournaments one time. That she's
Probably,
part of the Tiger Rock too. And so shout out to Tiger Rock and Master Dallas, and my wife Courtney. No, that's so cool, man. No, I have huge admiration and respect for. And that was one of the reasons I was honestly, this is not about me, but that was one of the things that I really appreciated about my wife was that it takes a certain degree of discipline to get to that place, and I have admiration and respect for sure regarding that. How do you see your early struggles with self-doubt shape you now? How have they shaped you now on your approach to development and helping others?
I think, one, just being really aware and just know how to treat people. I never wanted, and again, everybody gets teased and gets bullied a little bit. I probably got a little bit more, more so than I ever let my parents let on, because it was embarrassing. But I never want to let anybody feel the way that I felt. And if I ever did, I always made sure that I would go back and apologize. But I always didn't want to make somebody feel less than what they really are, because stuff like that does kind of stick with you. I'm 52 and I can still tell you, who used to mess with me, who did this. I'm not going to write a book. I'm not going to hold any grudges. But that stuff does stick with you from time to time. So just how I approach people. You never know what anybody's going through. And you just always try to be, you may not necessarily like everybody, or you may not necessarily respect everybody, but you should be kind to everybody. And this is kind of how you should carry it. And a lot of people, when they come to the gym, they come to the gym for different reasons. Sometimes, again, there's always a little bit of vanity. At times they want to look a certain way. But some people, they're at the gym because maybe they finally hit their rock bottom. And maybe that rock bottom was a bad diagnosis from their doctor. Maybe they're walking through the mall and someone said, "My God, you get a load of that, that heavy guy," and things like that, or some snide remarks. And so for them to come to the gym, just to walk through the door is a very, very hard step to take. So I just try to approach people and just always remember my first time in the gym, it was intimidating. Everybody was 10 times bigger than I was. I mean, I was this big around. I thought someone was going to pick me up and use me as a barbell. But just, you learn from your past history. You learn how to treat others. You learn how it kind of made you feel. So I'm always very, very aware about that, and make sure I'm always uplifting people and realize that even when you sit down with a client, you ask them, any history, have you worked out before? The first time, they're probably not going to tell you everything. There's that level of trust that has to be earned. I worked with one lady who, unfortunately, she was abused physically by her ex-boyfriend. And with training, sometimes there's a lot of cueing. Sometimes it's easy to say, I need you to keep your shoulders back and things like that. With her, I had to be very aware that I could not even think about touching her. I couldn't, just because she would flinch. And after about a week's worth of working together, she finally said, you can touch me. So just little things like that. I mean, you just have to kind of put yourself in the other person's shoes and sometimes maybe dig a little bit deeper. But also, reinforcing that, no matter what struggles I went through, you do come out on the other side. No matter what struggles they may be going through, they will come out on the other side as well, as long as you just kind of keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I have a friend, he's a Green Beret, and he talks about everybody wants to climb Mount Everest, right? And I think they see this big mountain that they have to climb, and say all they have to do is take the next step, you know, and then the next step, and then you're on top of the mountain. But you can't get there. There's no shortcut around it.
No.
Do you believe in the? I asked the person I had on my podcast yesterday. Do you believe in the 10,000 hour rule, where you put 10,000 hours into a particular, like, swimming or Taekwondo? You put 10 you have to put 10,000 hours in to become an expert in that particular thing.
I think so. I mean, to a point, it's like everything takes practice. There was a quote from Bruce Lee one time. He says, "I don't fear the man that knows 1,000 kicks. I fear the man that knows one kick 1,000 times." So really, it's obviously you're going to want to branch out, things like that. But if you want to get better at one specific thing, you really got to kind of put your time and effort in that, whatever you want to work out. Lance Armstrong was a phenomenal biker outside of all the things that happened later, but he probably wasn't a good boxer. You've got Mike Tyson's a great boxer, probably not the best football player. So nothing always translates to different things. You want to be great at something, it does help that you have to kind of dive into that. And it's not just the physical, there's the mental aspects of different things. I mean, some things are physically tough, and then when your body gets out, there's that mental part that says one more. Yeah. One more step, one more rep, one more.
Wow. In terms of resilience and overcoming adversity, after going through tough experiences like losing your daughter, how have you as an individual learned to be more resilient, not only as an individual, but as a husband, as a husband and a couple?
Yeah, I think, really, my wife had a lot to do with that. And sometimes I feel like I don't say that enough. Because we went for the 4-month checkup. we're going to find out if it was a boy or a girl. And the doctor went through the sonogram and looked at it, and he just kind of looked at the image and just had this weird look on his face. And he said, "I'll be back 1 second." I was comforting her. I was like, he probably just needs new equipment. Sometimes the camera's blurry.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm having a special needs kid, and that's fine. I'll love the kid like no other. It stinks, but the kid's gonna have a great life. And he came back and he said, "Well, your daughter, it is a girl, has unfortunately what's called Turner syndrome, and what that is when you're a girl, you have those two X chromosomes. Well, one of the X's is missing one of the bar bodies, and they don't develop. And a lot of those, they don't make it past pregnancy. They kind of self-terminate, and that's unfortunately where we were. So we went from having a reveal party to my wife having to deliver a baby girl that we can't bring home. And that was, it was obviously hard for me because as a man, I'm supposed to protect my wife. I'm supposed to protect my daughter, and I couldn't do any of that stuff. But always, it dawned on me one day, my wife went in there, with the baby, and the next morning she left without a baby, and really nothing to show for her except you go to a room, there's a crib where the only thing missing is a baby. And that's tough. That was really the hardest. It was hard for her. I was trying to make sure she's fine, and I made sure that, but you kind of forget, how am I doing? Am I okay?
Yeah.
And I wasn't either, but that's fine, but eventually you have to get through with it, and you have to kind of come to terms with what happened. Because I think when people get married, you say your vows, you say richer for poor, better for worse, sickness and health. And I think sometimes people just say that, but at some point, sickness is going to happen, poor is going to happen, and worse, it's going to happen. That's part of life, and it's how you deal with that. Can you really lean on that partner? Because you don't know a whole lot about a person until something bad happens. It's easy to coast, but when something bad happens, what do you really do? And that's where you really have to kind of lean on that. She propped me up. She helped me. There's one day, I got home from work and I was laying on the floor and I was just upset. You turn on the news and some kid got abused by their parents to the point where the kid died, or somebody didn't want their baby thrown in a dumpster, and you're like, why are they able to have that and I can't? I'm a good guy. My wife's a great mother. What's wrong with us? And I was laying down and I just heard this voice in my head that just said, "Get up," and I just sprung up, and that's where, and I don't get into it later, but that's just kind of where that Rocky mentality just kind of kicked in. And there's one thing I'm like, okay, I can't, I know I'm never going to get over it, but I'm going to get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's just, we just really just kind of learn to lean on each other. There's some days where she was having bad days and I was having a better day, and then when I was having an awful day, she was having a better day, and it's, together we're,
become one. Huh?
Yeah, by ourselves, definitely by myself, I'm probably an average dude. With her, I mean, she makes me an A+. I mean, that's awesome. And that's just how you look at it, and it just happens. And luckily, we were blessed with another baby girl. She's 11 now. But every once in a while, I always kind of think, okay, what could have been? What would the first start have been like? But we could not have been more lucky to have a beautiful little girl and get a second shot.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I should have asked you for permission first before
of
I
course,
asked this question.
No.
It's so important that I see people's suffering and struggle is sacred, and I think a lot of people, when they hear this, they're gonna something about this piece of conversation is gonna resonate with other women out there that have experienced the same thing. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
No, of course,
and,
of course.
Same topic, resilience and overcoming adversity. When you face tough situations, what's your go-to method or mindset to keep moving forward?
I think it's mostly really two things. I think one, when you go through something like the loss of a child, you can never really prepare for it. There's not, I don't care what they say, there's not a class you can take. There's not any lessons you can try to, there's no workout that's going to get you through that. But I think once you get there, to me, there's nothing worse that can happen. And so, anytime after that, whether it was for me, the most recent was the whole pandemic, the shutting the gym down, and then all the openings and the mat and all that stuff. It was hard. Hadn't been unemployed for a while. I was told my job was non-essential, even though the bills that kept coming in very much were. But at the same time, it's like, that's nothing compared to losing my daughter. I mean, I almost feel like, okay, well, I got that. What else you got? You know,
Yeah.
it's like you got to come out with something a lot stronger than that.
Yeah.
And then just things I learned just from coaches every year. I mean, the more you push through, the stronger you get. You pull from different. Sometimes you pull from different. A song might motivate you. A certain TV show might motivate you. Certain things like that. Books. But for me, it was again those Rocky movies. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just keep going forward. You don't necessarily have to win the fight, but you can win the night. You don't necessarily have to come out victorious, but as long as you're standing at the end of the day, you did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a perfect segue, man. The influence of Rocky. You know, one of the things I appreciate about you is that you had this strong passion for the Rocky movies and Rocky Balboa and you know, versus Dolph Lundgren or whatever. You know, what's the name? Drago.
Yep.
Drago. Yeah. So I said, man, I really want to get into like what is it about his movies and the character and everything that he plays that really resonate with you. He's been a big inspiration for you, as you mentioned. How do you see his story reflecting your own experiences and mindset?
I think in the beginning, I mean, when I was real young, the first Rocky movies I really remember watching were Rocky III, Rocky IV, and I love those movies. But again, at that point, he was already the champ. He had already accomplished that part of it.
Yeah.
And by that point, I was 13 years old. I was home from school, and that's where the bullying was really kind of getting kind of rough. I used to sometimes fake being sick just so I'm like, just give me a day. I need a day break. I'll come back tomorrow. You guys can kind of pick on me then. And I was home, and the first Rocky was on. And I hadn't seen it before, and so I watched that one, and that one, that's where I saw where he started. A broken down club fighter who everybody called a bum. They dismissed him, the way they talked to him, the way they treated him, and I just sat there and I'm like, that's kind of how I feel. People kind of dismiss me. They're not giving me a chance. They're calling me all kinds of names. And when he finally does get a chance, because I think all we're looking for in life is just a shot at something, and that it's up for us to take advantage of it. But when he did finally get that shot, I mean, he took advantage of it. He proved a lot of people wrong. It got back to, you don't decide, I decide. And just seeing the work that he put in, and even knowing that, the night before the fight, he tells Andrew, he's like, I can't beat him, but I just want to be standing at the end of the. I just want to know that I'm not another bum from the neighborhood, and that's something like that just really resonated with me a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously through movies, you see the training montage, you see how hard he's working, and there was something about him stepping into that ring, knowing that he's going to get the beating of his life, and it's not going to happen in some private gym in Philly. It's not going to happen in some backstreet alley. It's going to happen in front of the entire world. Everybody's going to see this, and he still stepped in the ring anyway. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to go through possibly knowing something humiliating might happen, something bad might happen. How many people are going to show up? Most people are probably like, I'm just going to do what I can to avoid that, but not let people go in there and actually show up where everybody's going to see this. And just something about him sticking to it, and even that 14th round where he gets knocked down, a mix like stay down. The fight could be over. He could be going through no more pain. Let's just go home. This fight should have lasted 3 minutes. We're in the 14th round. He gets up anyway, and he makes sure he's still standing. And it's just something like that just grabbed a hold of me. It just honestly, some people say something lit a fire in me. For me, it just lit an inferno. And to me, those are just life lessons, and it just got a hold of me. That's where really, I felt my life really just kind of changed from that point.
Wow, that's pretty deep, man. To see that much into that movie, like just to see, like you said it. I can't honestly. I'll be honest with you. How tall are you?
6'2".
6'2". I can't think of Brian 6'2", being picked on, but I can see how, like with Rocky too. You don't know, you know what I'm saying, like with your story. I wasn't there when you were young.
It was a little bit, a little bit of a late bloomer. I mean, it was puberty was not kind. I mean, acne, big glasses, and things like that, and then being shy, just kind of socially awkward, things like that. But you just kind of you go through. That's why it's kind of the same thing. I think with as much bullying that goes on right now, I think to me, obviously, to me the bullies are the cowards, because there's something to be said for the people that are getting picked on. They know, kind of like I said before with Rocky, they know they're going to get picked on. They know they're going to have a rotten day at school. They know they're going to get embarrassed, but they go to school anyway. They still go to school. They go to a place they know it's going to honestly just suck.
Yeah. And
they still go to school. That, to me, is brave. There's something to be said about that. That's toughness right there.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, there's a moment in the movies where, this part. Is there a specific quote from Rocky that motivates you and relates to how you approach life and training?
Yeah, actually, it's in Rocky 4 where he's talking to his son and he's about ready to take the flight to go train in Russia to fight Drago, and he's talking to his son and just kind of talking about how his son's getting worried, and he just says, sometimes in life things are going to go a little bit off, but he's like, if you go in that one more round when you don't think you can, that's what makes all the difference in your life. And going further than you think that you physically can, that you mentally can, if you just make that one extra step, it changes things. You realize that, okay, I can, I thought I was done, now I'm not done. There's something to be said about just that certain level of toughness. And again, it doesn't have to be, you against somebody else. Sometimes it's just literally you against you. It's not about proving something to other people. It's about proving something to yourself.
Awesome, man. Okay, there's an iconic montage where Rocky runs up the steps at the Philadelphia Museum of Arts, celebrating his accomplishment of training. What event in your life resembles this feeling and moment?
That's a good question. I can't pinpoint one certain one. Obviously, winning certain swim events was can you put that in there? Finally achieving level of black belt in martial arts. I mean, that takes a little bit of time. But I think just more away from that point, I mean, just trying to be meeting and marrying my wife, finding the right person, having a perfect little girl, trying to be the best dad that she can be, or that I can be for her. But I think, getting back to, I think there was one time at work we had a meeting and I got a customer service award. And then they held me back after the meeting and said, we're going to promote you to elite level of trainer. And I was looking at those awards and I was thinking about that as I was driving back to a new house that we had just built, finally in a neighborhood that I've always wanted to raise my daughter in. I just felt like some level of just peace kind of finally came over me. It almost felt like I did it. We're at a place now where, we can do whatever we want. We've got a great neighborhood. My daughter's going to meet a lot of friends. We have a nice house. Jobs are secure. I just kind of finally felt that level of finally success and just more of this peace of mind. Just almost like, years of trying, you finally kind of feel like I think I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. And for me, that's kind of what it was for, for me. And the funny thing is, like with that character, this is amazing how wide reaching it is. I mean, you have. I've been up there a couple of times. I've actually ran up the stairs a couple of times.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow,
it's pretty
cool.
Everybody does it.
Yeah,
and
see that video, man.
And you see the statue, and there's a line going around the corner. I mean, sometimes you have to wait an hour just to stand in front of it. And I have a friend of mine in Philly. His name is Mike Kunda, and he has a Yo Philly film tour, and it's a tour. He takes people on a tour of all the places where Rocky was filmed. And Philly, you've got the Liberty Bell, you've got Independence Hall. People don't want to go there. He has the #1 tour in Philly because people want to go see, they want to run the stairs. They wanted to see the statue. They want to see where this was filmed. They want to see where that was filmed. And we're talking people from Australia, Scotland, Asia. I mean, it's this little character that kind of got me is that far reaching. I mean, it's funny. I mean,
it's cool that you like you said, it reaches a lot of people, that his story, that whole the symbolic meaning of taking each step one step at a time and then hitting your stride and getting to the top and declaring victory in your life.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Actually, I'll be honest with you, man. When you were talking, I was getting emotional.
Good.
'Cause I was like, dude.
It means it's working. That's good.
No, seriously, no. It's like these are really important moments in your life that that declare your victory. So I could sense that from you for sure. Let's see. Oh, I was going to ask you: have you ever chased a chicken and try to catch?
I have not. No, I would probably get outrun by a chicken at this point. I'd be good to a stuffed chicken. I might catch.
Stuffed chicken.
Live one, probably not so much. I'm more. I can catch an egg. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that point.
That's funny. Let's see here. Spiritual and philosophical insights. First, do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
I do. Growing up Catholic, we went to church for a little bit. Then we stopped going just because with swim practice and it kind of life just got in the way. But I started going back to church with my wife and got baptized through her church. But I remember a time in college, I was going through it a little bit, and I was stressed with tests and just other personal things. And sitting in my dorm room, I remember just sitting there thinking, like, God, if you exist, just give me a sign. And not 5 seconds later, there's a tap on my door and open up, and there's a gentleman standing there with the Bible, and he says, I don't mean to bother you, but is it okay if I talk to you about Jesus? And the hair on my neck just stood up, and I said, yeah, you should probably come in. And yeah, so I just, he sat there and we talked, but I definitely believe there's a higher being, and it's different for everybody. I just think there's always kind of a higher purpose. I think whether, how the universe, tells you to be and things like that, but I definitely do. I mean, it's definitely a higher purpose, and there's definitely somebody out there to kind of, watching over everything, and yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it reminds me of a story, and I mentioned Joe Bell a few minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was an exchange that we had that really resonated with me. We didn't really know each other very well. We saw each other, and you know how I was training at that time, really tough and dark, dark matter, like let's say dark matter workouts, and I'm in the darkness, I'm like,
You're
like
focused.
focused.
You're focused.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, Rush, I want to talk to you for a second, man. And then he just he handshakes, and he gives me this little silver cross.
Oh yeah.
And then I said, hey, I just want you to have this, man. It says, God loves you or something on it. And I was like, whoa. And we just sat there and prayed together, man. And I was one of our, it was not, how we see each other at the gym, and we're like, just, hey, what's up? We're all like, we get that stoicism. We're in our pre-workout sometimes, so we might be in that deep stoicism.
A little torqued up, yeah.
Yeah. But that was one of the exchanges I had with him. Last question: how do you guide others to find their own spiritual and philosophical insight, philosophical insights to improve their resilience and purpose?
I think just reminding them why they're here, reminding them that they took the biggest and the most bravest step is actually realizing that there's a need for change, and reminding them how important it is. And sometimes, again, it's not just the physical. Sometimes you're going to have to tap into the mental part of it. Sometimes you're going to have to tap into the spiritual part of it, whatever keeps you consistent. There's going to be days where you want to cancel the appointment. There's going to be days where you want to, just stay home and or maybe just go to bed and be like, this day's done. I'm going to do it over again tomorrow. And just realizing it's not that bad, because regardless of how bad the day is, you're going to wake up and the sun's going to come up, and you have a new chance, you have a new opportunity. Just realizing that you're worth it. Make sure that the only bad workout that ever happened was the one that you didn't do. I mean, so come in and do something. You owe it to yourself. I mean, the rest of the world, your boss has you for 8 to 10 hours. Even your family's got you for a couple. Give yourself 1 hour, even if it's just a couple times a week to do something. But just kind of remind them that they're worth it. That they're, unless they take care of themselves, they really can't take care of other people as best they can. I've got people coming in that are my age, and I swear they look like they're 80. Yeah. And it's just from bad choices, hard living. Maybe they don't think that they're worth it. They almost kind of come to a decision like, I'm going to be checking anyway. My dad died when he was 60. My mom died when she was, so I'm not going to live long anyway. I'm like, why? Why would you have, again, you don't dictate, or they don't dictate, you do. I say. That's just kind of how it comes in. And just remind it, like I said, just they're worth it. You're worth it. And just kind of tap into whatever they need. And like I said, so much of that stuff is always, people always think, again, the physical aspect of it, so much of the mental and the spiritual aspect of it. Sometimes if you just kind of just take a second and pray, there's just that sense of calm that comes over everything. And just being, and sometimes when you pray, it's always good to, people always ask for something, but it's always good to make sure, in my opinion, not to get too preachy, but thank God for what you have. Be thankful that you have a house that you can go home to. Thank God that you have a job that maybe you don't like, but at least it's bringing an income temporarily so you can take care of yourself and take care of your family. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not all cloudy and dark days either. Yeah.
Brian, man, it's if people, I want to say, if people want to get a hold of you and want to do some personal training with you, and maybe get you on a podcast as well, how can they get a hold of you?
They can reach me at Cowboys Fit, just my first initial B, Syphard, Syphard, at cowboysfit.com. That's where I am Monday through Friday. And just hook me up and let me know if you have any questions, be able to help you out. Or just stop by and ask for Brian. Ask for the Rocky fan. I'm the only one there, I promise.
Yeah, Rocky fan. There you go. There you go. Hey, Brian, brother. Hey, man, it's great to have you on the Rush Retrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. It was all that and more, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, man.
There's a lot
Thanks
of
so much.
value, man. Hey, guys, that's it for the Rush Retrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. As I always say, have peace and light to you. And remember that the ocean refuses no river.
We lift each other.